So I'll go ahead and call this meeting to order of our Public Safety Finance and Strategic Support Committee. If we can get a roll call first, please.
Arenas.
Here.
Jones. Mahan.
Here.
Jimenez. Perales.
Here.
Okay, we're at quorum. Thank you.
Thank you. And before we do begin, I want to remind our committee members and members of the public to please follow our code of conduct here at the meeting. This includes commenting on the specific agenda items only and addressing the full body. Public speakers should not engage in conversation directly with the chair or committee members or staff, and all members of the public Safety Finance and Strategic Support Committee staff and the public are expected to refrain from abusive language. Repeated failure to comply with the code of conduct, which will disturb, disrupt, or impede the orderly conduct of this meeting, may result in removal from the meeting. And this meeting of the Public Safety Finance and Strategic Support Committee can now begin. So we'll go on to our review of the work plan. And any recommendations for items to be added, dropped, or deferred from my committee members? Anything from staff?
Nothing that needs to get dropped, but asking if the city clerk can move Jim Shannon over from the attendee side to the panelist side, please. Sorry, Chair.
No worries. Okay, with no recommendations, then we don't need to hear any comment on that item. We can go down to consent calendar. Our consent calendar, we have one item on it, and if nobody wishes to pull that item for conversation, then I'll ask for a motion to approve the consent calendar.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion is second. We will go to public comment on this.
Blair Beekman.
Over from
Hi, thank you. Blair Beekman here. Just a quick comment that with this budgeting for January and February 2022, the financial report. Good luck how we can learn to make really clear what can be, good memos and good budgeting ideas and honest ideas and practices for our budgeting year of 2023. I'll be really interested to see what those kind of reports and budgeting looks like. I think we're trying to prepare ourselves to offer good reports in projections for 2023. Good luck in our efforts to do that. I just wanted to offer a friendly reminder of that at this time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, and if we can get a roll call vote, please.
Arenas.
Yes.
Mahan.
Aye.
Perales.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. That'll take us on to item D1, which is the Police Department Operations and Bi-Monthly Status Report.
Thank you, Councilmember. I'm going to share my PowerPoint here. Can you see that all right?
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you and good afternoon. My name is Lieutenant Steve Donahue, and I'm the Commander of Research and Development of the San Jose Police Department. So today I'm going to be presenting the department's Operations and Performance Bi-Monthly Status Report. And as we get started, I want to introduce you to the new layout that we're going to be using for these slides. I'm trying to update it a little bit, get a little fresher look. So that's why they look different. So today we will be covering our citywide crime statistics, and then I'll be presenting on other matters of interest, including the gender-based violence response and strategy work plan update, and a brief update on redistricting efforts. And then finally, Lieutenant Gino Gular will be with us. He'll be presenting on the violent and gang-related crime data by the Mayor's Gang Prevention Task Force hotspots and emerging hotspots. So we will begin with our citywide Part 1 UCR crime stats. And as you can see, UCR defined rapes are almost up 68% in January and February of 22 compared to the same period in 2021. So I'm going to talk about this in depth in a little bit, but for the other numbers on our UCR crime stats, we're dealing with relatively small numbers covering only 2 months. So the fluctuations are well within our normal limits for this time of year. Now we'll move on to our gender-based violence response and strategy work plan update. So as I mentioned earlier, rape offenses are up. We are more than double in January and February of this year compared to the same time period in 2021. And we're also at a 54% increase when compared to the 5-year average. So this caused us great concern, and we took a deeper dive into those numbers, and this is what we found. 12 of the 70 cases were turned over to other agencies because they occurred outside our jurisdiction. Now, this is an unusually high number where our annual average for this period is 1.2. So normally 1.2, we did 12 in this period. And 16 of these cases were historical reporting over 2 years old. So this is also an unusually high number where our annual average is only 5.4 cases. So we looked at the historical reporting because that caused us some concern. As we talked about before, we were worried about the quarantine period. And so we found that the COVID quarantine period was not a factor in these historical cases. In fact, only 3 of the cases were historical reports from during COVID, having occurred between 6 months and 2 years ago. So ultimately, we're watching the increase, but when we take out the 16 more than 2-year-old cases and the 12 cases we took for other agencies, that leaves 42 cases, which is within the normal limits for such a small number and this early in the reporting year. These charts show the current status of both the city and countywide work items since the inception of the Gender-Based Violence Response and Strategy Work Plan, and there are no changes to these charts since my last report in February. There's only one change on the San Jose work items. On February 28th, we deployed a memorandum, to order department-wide viewing of recognizing trauma in children. Now, this is underway and we're expected to be completed by June 30th. At Councilmember Arenas' request from the last bi-monthly report, we sent you all a copy of the video, and if you haven't had the opportunity to watch it yet, Catherine Sims, our child forensic interviewer, did an exceptional job breaking down how childhood trauma may manifest in our survivors and strategies to best support them. There are no changes to the countywide work items. Regarding the Sexual Assault Bill of Rights, the final prong of this item, the new resource card, is still in progress. And as I reported in the last committee meeting, the new cards were completed and we were waiting on printing. However, a translation issue was discovered on one of the cards and they needed to be redrafted. So now we're waiting on the county to refinalize this second redraft of the card to be sent to the printers. And remember, this is a county card, so we can't make it go any faster, but we are definitely working with them for everything we can to get these across the goal line. For SAFE qualifications and exams, there were 38 qualified adult SAFE exams and 14 qualified juvenile SAFEs. Of those 52 qualified exams, 37 individuals moved forward with the exam. As you can see on this slide, there are pretty large numbers of not qualified exams. So that kind of shocked us a little bit too. So we took a deeper dive into those numbers. And we discovered there were 2 main reasons. Of the 169 not qualified exams, 92 were historical, reported more than 1 year after the occurrence, and 59 were assaults that were over the clothing and did not involve any form of penetration. So please remember that SAFE exams are for the collection of evidence, and due to the historical nature of the details of the assault, it was determined that evidence could not be collected by the SAFE exams. But that doesn't mean we didn't provide medical exams. So medical exams are offered in all cases of assault or sexual assault where there's a physical contact between the perpetrator and the survivor. So we offer the medical exam. So therefore, despite the fact that a SAFE exam was not conducted for evidence, a medical exam was offered and may have been performed. And for example, every interview conducted at the Child Advocacy Center, a warm medical handoff is department protocol, and 44 of these were handoffs in January and February. And now we'll be moving on to redistricting. We are still in phase 1. Now, the RFP was originally expected to close last Friday, but we've extended it 2 weeks to provide enough time for the Q&A period. We had a lot of engagement on the RFP. So it will now close on Tuesday, May 3rd. And the evaluation team is already selected and ready to begin the evaluation process as soon as the RFP closes. And we'll expect to have a qualified vendor selected by the end of the fiscal year. And now I will pass the presentation over to Lieutenant Gino Goulart, who will be presenting on the Mayor's Gang Prevention Task Force hotspots and emerging hotspots. Gino?
Thank you, Steve. My name is Gino Gular. I'm the commander for the Assaults and Gang Investigations Unit. And as stated earlier, I am reporting the violent gang-related crime data by the MGBTF regarding hotspots and emerging hotspots. Central Division, Genie Avenue, Roosevelt Park, 10th and Williams, Julian Street. Foothill Division, Overfelt, Local Way, Foxdale, Mayfair, Valley Palms, San Jose Apartments, Colmar. And the emerging areas from the task force is Capitol Park, Meadow Fair, and Plata Arroyo. In Southern Division, Seven Trees, Hoffman, Viamonte, Round Table, Great Oaks, Coy Park, Tradewinds. In Western Division, Cadillac, Winchester area, Washington, Almas, Santee, and Phelan, Buena Vista, San Carlos. And the emerging areas are the Alma area, Fruitdale and Marlboro area, Owsley area, and Rock Springs. As you can see, we had two homicides last year. One of them is in the Roosevelt hotspot area. The mapping itself, it coincides with the hotspots that the task force have identified. We had a total of 82 incidents in the calendar year 2021 and 14 from January to February of 2022. Foothill Division, we had a total of 1 homicide for calendar year 2021, total of 246 for calendar year 2021, and total of 26 from January to February 2022. Southern Division, we had 109 for incidents from calendar year 2021, no homicides, and a total of 9 for January, February of 2022. In Western Division, we had 1 homicide for calendar year 2021, 191 incidents from calendar 2021, and 17 total from January to February of 2022. Again, as I stated earlier, the mayor's gang prevention task force, the hotspots that they designated are in line with, as you can see, with the yellow dots that are primarily focused in the area where those hotspots were established, including the homicide to the bottom left of your screen. Any questions? That concludes my portion of this briefing.
And does that conclude for you as well, Lieutenant Donahue?
Yes, sir. Thank you. We're ready for questions.
Okay, we'll go over to members of the public first.
Blair Beekman.
All right, Blair Beekman, thanks a lot for this item. Thanks a lot for your reporting on safe kit practices right now. San Jose, and I think San Jose and Santa Clara County have made really interesting, important strides to address the use of safe kits with DNA data collecting, and that's a no-no. And I think we're all understanding that, and that came through really quickly, and thank you for that. I think a point was raised about the data itself and how long do we keep the data. That is a really, it's an important debate that we're having. Crime data collection as opposed to like advertising data collection, those can be two different things. You can end advertising data collection very quickly, I feel. And the crime data issues, it's a trickier, tougher issue, and good luck to all sides how to debate that issue and what we can work on with that. I guess just important to bring up the ideas of reimagine at this time, and that we need to be focusing, I feel, on just, what can be, how can we move further ahead with good practices? What are our better ideals and selves of how we're going to move forward into an era of peace and leave an era of war? I think those are important concepts that we always need to be considering and working towards. And we debate back and forth, we pause for a time, and then there's a time we can really all move forward together with really important new concepts. And I just wanted to remind yourselves to always be looking for those new ideals and new concepts, and they can be okay. It doesn't have to be fearful if we can all do it together. understand each other, and good luck in how we can do that in the coming months. And thank you for this item.
Okay, thank
Speaker
you.
back to the committee.
Yeah, we'll come back to the committee. I don't see any hands raised. Oh, I do. Councilmember Dennis.
Thank you, Chair. I want to start off just
Oh.
by thanking. Oh,
And sorry, I thought I saw your hand up, but I anyway.
you
So
know what? I did press it, but it didn't go up. So I thought you had seen it and put it down actually when I was pressing it on the screen.
maybe I did. Nevertheless, go for it. Sorry.
We're right here on the same page, on the same plane. All right, so one of the things that I noticed is also the increase in the rape offenses, as you reported, Lieutenant, and I understand the breakdown of that. Regardless, it's still a concern for women and for all of us who are in this community. What is something that we can do proactively in terms of maybe messaging for safety? If you've noticed that there's a trend in certain, I don't know, parking lots, or of course, this is a crime of opportunity. We just never know when that's going to happen. But if there's any messaging that we can provide our community without, of course, alarming folks, just for safety precautions.
Are you talking about sexual assault generally, or are you talking about the last the stats from the last period?
No, that's a good point, Lieutenant. I think I meant just for the rape offenses increase, but I think your point, your question brings up a really good point about the trend for the last 10 years has been incremental. And so I think that it should be for both, right? Just in overall the sexual assault.
Yeah, thank you for your question, Councilmember. So I know we use our crime prevention unit to provide safety information to the public. We also, our sexual assault investigations unit works with the community quite a bit. We also work with our county partners to bring messaging to the community on ways to stay safe. I think overall for sexual assaults, we need to continue to focus on that and provide information to the public, asking them to communicate with us when anything happens. One of the things that, for lack of a better term, it's a good thing that these sexual assaults were reported to us. If you'll recall, I reported back that 16 of these occurred more than 2 years ago. So that tells me that 16 survivors decided that they were okay, felt safe, and could come forward and tell us about this. And I find that to be a good thing. That tells me that we're doing something right, that people feel safe enough to come tell us what happened to them. And that gives us the opportunity to do something about it that were going otherwise unreported.
Right, and I agree with that. That also leaves the rest of those folks who are reporting in time, kind of in the moment. And if there's any trends that we've noticed among some of those assaults, that we would then have some tips, that we could share with folks. Obviously, this is at this point where we're putting the responsibility back on to young women and women to defend themselves. And I think we should probably fall back to a two-prong approach where, we were providing some of that education. I don't necessarily think that our crime prevention needs to take any of those healthy relationship curriculum on themselves. We can certainly fund other agencies that do this kind of work and really preventative, so that by the time that kiddos reach high school, that they absolutely know what their limits are and what they see fit as a healthy relationship. That's not to say that they are not going to avoid an assault, on a surprise incident, but certainly intimate partner violence could be reduced. So I'm wondering what are we thinking in terms of tactics and strategies?
So I actually, I'd like to pass this one off to Deputy Chief Washburn. She's got her hand up and I think she has some good.
Oh, DC Washburn, hello, how are you?
Hi, I'm fine, thanks. Let me lower my hand. Yeah, I just wanted to jump in and offer, from a high level perspective, but also very actionable items. I think in addition to what the lieutenant offered insofar as certainly leveraging the crime prevention unit, I know we have some grant money coming in that's going into education piece. So crime prevention can partner right with the local districts and with neighborhood associations to get the messaging out. To your point, yes, that does kind of put the responsibility on the survivor to then come forward and report. Certainly working and leveraging anything possible with our advocate partners, right? I know we are very proactive in the department in seeking grant monies for both education components, which is a proactive measure, and as well as trying to find funding and support, our advocate partners who are potentially a little more engaged in the community, insofar as providing support and guidance and offsite, points of contact. So I would say the advocate partners. I'd also like to add that we at the department are currently working on an ally program where we are working with the chief's LGBTQ+ advisory board to put together the training so we could reach out to that community and be proactive in the engagement and training of our officers and providing, additional support to extend it even to, to be more inclusive of all of the communities in San Jose. I mentioned grants, and the last thing I'll say is, to your point, yes, certainly we have awareness training. We have some proactive measures that I mentioned, but I do believe Nextdoor, which is one of the advocate groups with whom we collaborate, does have some training for kind of the other half of the equation, the other gender, where maybe it's training and support and education that can be provided for the aggressor. I know that is something that we've talked about with them, that we're eager to kind of put eyes on and are certainly open into collaborating with them. So those are just some of the little finer points that I wanted to add, but I see the Chief Mata is here with his hand up, so I'm gonna mute myself now. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Chief Washburn. And just to add to what Deputy Chief just mentioned, the Ally program. So I know the Sexual Assault Investigations Unit is working right now to partner, as been mentioned, with various community partners such as the LGBTQ+, some members of our Asian community, our Hispanic community, and our Asian community to, again, provide that educational awareness, reporting, and also prevention. So they're working, that unit is working hard to engage with those community members and partners to provide further education. And that's something that had just started, and we're looking forward to those successes in partnering with those communities.
That's wonderful. I know that this is something that we've been talking about, the underreporting of sexual assault crimes in the Asian Pacific community. And so that's absolutely really important. We know that it's happening everywhere, and we know we have a significant number of our community that is of Asian descent. And so we need to make sure that they also receive those very specific and tailored services. So I'm really happy about that. I'd love to learn more offline about the Ally program and how we can be supportive. But just going back to this question, I think that, overall, there are strategies that we use for burglaries, for other crimes, for gang hotspots. We qualify them as emerging, and we just have some different kinds of tactics. And so I'd love to see we don't necessarily have to do the work ourselves. We don't have to be the answer for every social issue, but I think, like you said, Chief Mata and DC Washburn and Lieutenant Donahue, there's a lot of partnership that can, you know, that can make sense so that we are addressing some of the, not only just some of the symptoms, but going to the origins and trying to create some different outcomes, especially when it has to do with intimate partner violence and it's relationship based, right? Or just even the reporting. I know that Lieutenant Donahue, that having people, having women and men report within 2 years is already a success, right? That's already a wonderful thing, so that they're within that time frame of being able to report and maybe do something about it. I do think that we need to create a strategy to let folks know, hey, this is the time frame for reporting. This is how we do this. I know that overall our society is helping us facilitate that conversation a lot, but I'd love to see a very specific strategy coming out of our police department in response to, in the same way that we respond to gangs and burglaries and all the whatnots that are happening in our city, that we also respond to sexual assault with a strategy that works. And I'm going to rely on you to tell me what those things that work, right? And we're going to rely on our stakeholders. So listen, those were my questions. Oh, except for one additional one. The video, I'm really excited that you have that video, Lieutenant Donahue. I haven't seen it. I did a quick search on my email to see, maybe I missed it or something. Love to see it. And I know that it's a viewing for our training, as part of our training for officers. And I'm wondering, do we provide that video on their own? They can just watch it whenever, or is it hosted during a meeting and everybody is obligated to watch it rather than on their own time?
So due to staffing levels, of course, we can't keep holding meetings and hold people to watch the video. The video is shown during briefings. We showed it for a few weeks at every briefing on both sides of the week. So we ensured that our entire patrol division was provided the opportunity to see it during briefings. On top of that, like detectives watch it at their desk. Every department member is required to watch it though.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. And that's what I meant, briefings. I didn't meetings, but yes, briefings that would, you're kind of have a captive audience and you're watching the video at the same time. It would be wonderful to see if there's any questions that come out of it, and how useful the video actually is, because I do want it to, I don't want it to be something that we just check off a list, but that's something that speaks to some of the need out there on behalf of we know that there's a need on behalf of the survivors, because that's who is getting assaulted. But is it working also for our police officers? Are they gaining any insight in their interactions with our children? So that would be something else I would look for. And aside from that, I have some of the real technical stuff, but I'll take it offline in terms of the numbers for the rape offenses. I think they were off by maybe 6 or something, but I'll take it offline and move to approve the report.
Council member, can I address that actually? Are you talking about the difference in the rape offenses for the UCR reporting?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So totally.
Oh, you were ready for me, Lieutenant.
Oh yeah. This is a totally normal thing for us, because you need to remember that UCR reporting is different than the stats that we gather for rape offenses when we report back to council. So when we report UCR numbers, they are definitely going to vary from the investigative numbers that we have, because we may have duplicate cases, we may have cross-reporting, we may have items that are reported to UCR that are reported doubly to us because it may be lesser included crimes inside of a different case. And remember that when we change over to NIBRs here in 2 months, then the numbers are going to be completely different. So you're going to find, like right now, if there's a homicide that involved a sexual assault, they're only reported as a homicide, not as a sexual assault. Well, once we switch to NIBRs, they will both be reported, and we'll be able to track both numbers. So you're going to see numbers be completely different after that switch over around the end of the fiscal year. So that's why you see that. It's totally normal for us to have a few different here on UCR reporting versus sexual assault investigation reporting.
Great, great. And thank you, Lieutenant. And just one last statement is the reason I keep going back to this sexual assault area and these statistics are because you heard me say this, the sexual assault is a pipeline, creates a pipeline in the same way that school to prison pipeline is created by lack of positive behavioral interventions for especially our children of color. This is the kind of pipeline that creates and triggers interaction with the juvenile justice system for a lot of our young girls. The majority of our young girls, that's what the research tells us. And so we must interrupt the pipeline in the same way that we're doing it for the school to prison pipeline. And we are not there yet. This county isn't there yet. The city isn't there yet. Nobody's talking about this as, kitchen table conversation. Nobody's recognizing this kind of pipeline that leads to domestic violence and sex trafficking and sex work. And those things create a whole cycle in and of themselves. And so any of the interventions and strategies that I asked for is because I want to make sure that we interrupt those, and we have strategies. So we interrupt the pipeline. We have some interventions that work, and we have something that's preventative, or at least some interventions. And so that's ultimately what I want to accomplish in all that we are doing. So thank you.
And we did get a motion. If we can get a second.
There's a motion, second.
Thank you. And I don't see any other hands up. Thank you for the report as well. And I had just one request, and this is for your next report on some of the other matters of interest that we're able to hear back on. And I'd like to see if we can get a presentation on our response to sideshows. And we've had a number of enhancements to our enforcement, some law changes, and I know that we've prioritized enforcement on responding to the sideshows that are happening. And the latest one, where obviously we had an officer injured and we were able to capture somebody with a weapon. My understanding is at that incident and at a lot of the other sideshows now is we're deploying a significant number of resources from around the city. Essentially, we're pulling people from the street and assigning them to go and respond to the sideshows. And that even with a significant number of resources, my understanding was around 30 or so patrol vehicles, that we're still being overrun essentially, right? Because you're talking about hundreds of people at these sideshows and cars, and ultimately in this instance, an officer was injured as well. And so what I'd like to hear back is, number one, just a report on how the response has been going, right? Some of the data, the number of citations, and do we think it's working? What is not working? I also wanted to have a conversation around some of the trade-offs, because if we are pooling significant resources for hours at a time from around the rest of the city, then the rest of our community is likely struggling and suffering, because when they're calling 911 and hoping for a response, they're likely delayed in some of those calls for service. And so I just wanted to see how we can have a better understanding of how it's going, and then more importantly, have a discussion on, is there anything else we can do, or a different way to address this problem, or at least having a better understanding of the trade-offs, and then we can make some decisions and recommendations here out of this committee. So that's my other
Absolutely.
Request. Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you.
Is June okay for the bi-monthly?
Yeah.
Is that going to be right?
Yeah.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah. And obviously, if we have the relevant, anybody that's relevant,
It'll be.
this
I
work,
think it'll be Captain Freyer. I reached
Okay.
out to him this morning. So.
Great. Thank you. And our best, wishing our best for that officer that was injured as well. Okay, we can get a roll call vote, please.
Arenas,
Yes.
Jones,
Aye.
Mahan,
Aye.
Perales.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Okay, now we are on to item D2. It's our fire department sworn recruitment, hiring activity, and bilingual services annual report.
Good afternoon, Chairperson Peralez, members of the committee. My name is James Lloyd, Assistant Fire Chief for the City of San Jose Fire Department. I'm happy to present for you today the Fire Department sworn recruitment, hiring, and bilingual services annual status report. In the life cycle of the organization, attrition is typically as a result of retirements or for other purposes when individuals leave the organization. In calendar year 2021, the fire department filled 79 sworn and 25 civilian vacancies, which represents over 12% of 848 total authorized positions. Each classification has unique requirements and minimum qualifications, which require separate recruitment processes. External recruitments are conducted for entry-level firefighter ranks. Internal recruitments are conducted for promotions to non-management and sworn ranks. This graphic represents the staffing levels of the fire department at the end of calendar year 2021. For fiscal year 21-22, the fire department is authorized for 719 positions. At that time, we had 684 positions filled and 35 vacant positions. As of December 31st, as I indicated, 684 or approximately 95% of the 719 positions were filled with 35 vacancies. It should be noted that firefighter positions are occupied by firefighter recruits while in the academy. Excuse me. In addition, in 2021, the department promoted 28 sworn personnel, which included the hiring of 1 assistant fire chief, 1 battalion chief, 23 captains, 1 fire engineer, and 3 fire inspectors. So as part of the process to ensure that we are able to identify candidates for sworn positions, the department participates in numerous recruitment, marketing, and outreach activities. One to highlight notably is the Women's Boot Camp. In 2020, there were 60 participants in that program, and when the period opened for individuals to sign up, it quickly filled within 3 minutes of opening on Eventbrite. And so it's a quite popular program. We have that program once again occurring on May 14th of this year, and we look forward to the candidate pool that we get. In addition, we work with the Credit Local Academy through the state of California, providing training and resources available to staff as they prepare for promotion and development for their fire service careers. We also partner with the South Bay Regional Public Safety Training Consortium. In fact, this week there's a career fair coming up at that location on the 23rd, and we will be part of that. In addition, we have the San Jose Fire Explorer Program, 888, Post 888, which provides a pipeline to local junior colleges for individuals seeking to become firefighters in the future. Most recently, we were able to sponsor an individual from that program through the EMT process. And so that individual is well on their way to having the qualifications necessary to become a firefighter. We also do advertising, marketing, and social media, utilizing YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and for our next recruitment, we'll also be using one other platform that is popular in the community. And then again, I talked about the fire department career fairs that will be participating moving into 2022. As a result of COVID, we were not able to participate in any of those events in 2021. However, with things being modified in terms of restrictions, we are looking forward to participating in those events this year as resources and staff availability are in place. So you'll note on the next slide, our firefighter recruit hiring process. It is a fairly substantial process. It takes approximately 8 months from the time that we post the San Jose Fire Department firefighter recruit notice to the community. It is open for a couple months, typically closes in June, followed by Individuals then taking the exam. At that point, there's a determination of a pass or fail setting for that. Once individuals find out their level of success, they move on to the personal history questionnaire. After that is vetted, they go through a process where established qualified candidate group is established, followed by oral boards. After oral boards, they go through fire chief's interviews, followed by background investigations. And then in October, we look to present a conditional job offer of employment with final offers in December. And then having the Recruit Academy, when things work well on the timeline, start in January, and Academy graduation in May. Typically, our academies range approximately 20 weeks. So you'll note that for the last process held in September 2020, the list was established on September 6th, and there were actually 1,135 candidates. And you can note the breakdown of the candidates. 12% of the candidates were from San Jose. Approximately 88% or 1,000 were non-residents. In terms of the qualifications, EMT certification, 79% of the candidate pool had the EMT certification. 11% had the paramedic license. In addition, if you look at the ethnic breakdown, 1% of the applicants were American Indian, Native American, Asian Pacific Islander, approximately 13%, Black African American, approximately 7%, Mexican, Hispanic, Latino, 29%. And then we have those that did not disclose their ethnicity, and then white Caucasian, roughly 44%. And then the breakdown by gender, you can see 7% for females and 92% for males and 1% undisclosed. So based on that list that was established, 2 firefighter recruit academies were hired and started in 2021. Academy 2101 graduated with 22 graduates September 5th, 2021. Academy 2102 had 19 graduates and graduated this past Friday on April 17th, 2022, and they are now working in our Bureau of Field Operations. So this slide depicts the fire department sworn personnel demographics. The fire department seeks to actively recruit, train, and support a talented and diverse workforce. To that end, the demographic data is maintained to monitor progress and to guide recruitment efforts. Part of providing a high level of service to the residents and visitors of San Jose are to provide bilingual skills. Currently, the certified bilingual employees in the organization speak 20 different languages. Those most notable are Spanish, Vietnamese, Cantonese, Mandarin, Portuguese, and Russian, Tagalog, and then we have the other languages that are spoken. This allows us to communicate with residents when they initially make the 911 call, as well as when we are actually on the scene of emergencies, EMS, as well as fires or other types of emergencies, to provide language services to provide a higher level of service. So as our crews respond, as I indicated, you'll note the slide having a crew on the scene of an emergency medical incident, as well as our dispatch center. The way that the information was reported by our responders was as follows. 41% of the reports came from bystanders. A large number came from our language line services. The fire department responders was roughly 46%, and from the police department responders, 3%. So based on having those staff that have the bilingual skill set, they are assigned to stations throughout the city. We have a total of 33 fire stations, and currently 23 have bilingual assigned personnel. 10 are identified as core bilingual service needs, and that's based on the amount of time that we encounter languages when we respond to those areas. And so those are high need stations. And then we have 2 stations that currently do not have anyone that is bilingual assigned to those locations. And so overall, the city is well covered with individuals that have bilingual skills. And again, it supports us providing a high level of service to those particular residents. And with that, if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you very much, Assistant Chief. We'll go over to members of the public first.
Blair Beekman.
Hi, thank you. Blair Beekman here. I don't have enough quite depth of knowledge for this item, but thank you for your patience as I try to work my way through it. I wanted to first thank yourselves that I think there is a definite renewed interest in what can be the multilingual languages of San Jose and the need to somehow connect with that. And this report is trying to do that and offer some choices for ourselves. I really hope a good luck in how we can, understand that different languages within a city in this country can be okay. And that I feel our previous English only laws have become a bit archaic, and that we're trying to address that now, and we're trying to find new ways to do that. So I thank you for that. And for this item, I think there's many languages and cultures that can use help, that can use volunteers, that can be a part of possibly, a fire brigade or a city government meeting that can simply help participate and facilitate a process so more people can attend public meetings, more people can have ways to talk to the fire department if needed. This can be a simple volunteer effort of community, and it's a simple process, but we have to learn to really kind of address these English only laws, and we just have to learn how to be a bit more open and flexible, and that takes some effort from us. Good luck how we can do that in the following next few years. We're coming up with study session processes that can do that. Meetings here are trying to do that. Good luck to all of us in this work. Thank you.
Jill Borders.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, I wanted to speak first just to the recruitment and hiring part of this topic. I noticed that it appeared, I guess it was, I'm sorry if I didn't get the number right, but I think 88% of the applicants were non-San Jose residents. And my concern or interest level would be, are those people coming, how far are they coming? Where are they coming from? What was their interest in being willing to travel to our city as opposed to another city? And the reason I'm interested in that is I'm trying to find out, I would love to have a police force and firefighters who are able to live in the city in which they work and serve. So our gratitude as residents is so whole and so committed to the police and to the fire department that what are we doing to make sure that if those applicants want to live in San Jose, if they can, how can we bridge that gap if housing is the issue, the price of housing, for example? If that is the impediment, what is it that we are doing as a city to encourage various partners like the Housing Trust, for example, or any other partner that might be willing to figure out ways that we could offer up housing for firefighters and police that want to live in the city that they serve? I am just very interested in finding out ways that we can do that. And the second thing, I would be remiss if I didn't just say thank you, thank you, thank you to the fire department for the tremendous work that they did in extinguishing and preventing the loss of life at the Home Depot fire. I was very, very, very close to that fire and feel so much gratitude. Thank you.
As the last speaker, back to the committee.
Thank you. Coming back to the committee here. Don't see any hands up. Councilmember Arenas.
Thank you, Chair. I have a couple of questions regarding some of the female recruitment. And the first one is, I'm wondering, are there any specific career development opportunities that are underway for to support the low number of female firefighters and administrative staff, especially, you know, as women have children, any of the nursing mothers that need to return back to work. I know the dispatchers seem to have a very high rate of we seem to lose them after maternity.
So in response to your question, certainly we're able to get out to recruitment activities that occur throughout the city and the region in order to inform individuals about the career that is available to them in the dispatch center. We continue to work with staff and labor to look at best practices that are out there and continue to work through those types of things in developing solutions and hopefully create a platform that works well for the individuals that are employed by the city and by the fire department.
Okay, so you talked about recruitment for those who will be coming in, but how about for the career development?
Well, career development occurs as a result of the training programs. For instance, we participate with medical priority dispatching services. So there is a robust training program that they go through to learn to operate the radios, to learn to certainly operate our computer-aided dispatch system, provide for the medical priority dispatching. In addition, through some of the benefits available, there are reimbursement opportunities for educational incentives that occur. And so, and then there are opportunities for people to act higher class when they're employed by the department. And so those processes all support career development.
Mm-hmm. There's just some very specific support that's needed when women have children and they return back to work and they're still nursing, right? So there just is some need for an accommodation for that, and that's what I'm trying to get to, because it seems like there is a low number in terms of women, not only in general, but even the positions of battalion chief and fire captains. I saw that there were 28 sworn personnel promotions, and out of those, I wonder how many of those were women. And so I'm wondering, how is the fire department accommodating very specific gender needs for women who are already there, or and for those who need to be recruited?
Well, for those that are already here, certainly as we are building new fire stations, we are taking into account things such as the need for lactation rooms and accommodations, so when they do return to work, they're able to continue the nursing process. Our facilities can be gender neutral facilities, and our bathrooms and locker rooms, things like that. In addition, when we look at, you asked about the number of people promoted in calendar year 2021, there were no women promoted that year. We have recently just promoted a woman battalion chief this calendar year. And again, we continue to create training opportunities and access to all members of the fire department to make sure that they can get the coursework, the certifications, the background that are requirements to sit for promotion exams. And then, as I indicated, when we go through our recruitment processes this year, we'd be reaching out, looking to see if women have opportunities, and we provide information for them. And again, the women's boot camp that comes up just next month is a great opportunity for women interested in the fire service to learn more about the organization, the fire service, and hopefully excel should they choose to decide that they want to have the fire service as a career.
Okay, well, listen, it is really disappointing to hear that none of those promotions included females. So that is actually an area that we need to make sure that we work on. And the recruitment, I'm glad you brought up the women's boot camp, because I was going to actually ask you about that. In our youth intervention services under the Mayor's Gang Task Force, there seems to be a really higher number, a very high number of female participation in some of their programs. And so I wonder if this is an opportunity to take advantage of the very high number of women or young girls that are participating in those programs, to maybe coach them and share some of that information really early on as they're thinking about changing their lifestyle. This could be an option for a career for them. And so I wonder if we've thought about maybe integrating some kind of, I don't know what kind of programming or what kind of services or what kind of referrals could happen, but I think we have a captive audience in some of our youth intervention services. We have a need for women in our fire department. Let's take advantage of both of these things.
I think those are good ideas, certainly something that we can look into.
Perfect. And then I'm wondering if the South Bay Regional Public Safety Training Consortium, the Academy, do they partner up with our Evergreen Valley Community College?
I don't have the answer to that. Something I can look into and get back to you. I believe Evergreen may be associated. I believe there's 8 different organizations, and not quite sure if Evergreen is one of them, but certainly can look into that and follow up with you.
Yeah, I saw that there was 8 community colleges. I wasn't sure if Evergreen was one of them. If not, I'm happy to help facilitate that. I think that would be wonderful. And really, those are my questions. I think that there's also an opportunity. Lastly, I think there's also an opportunity with the Office of Gender Violence Prevention from the county, as well as there's a similar office at Evergreen College. I'm sure that there is probably an office similar to that that's dedicated to very gender specific programs and career supports that you may want to connect with so that we can continue to recruit a higher number of women. It was very sad to see that it was only 80 out of 1,135. Only 80 women applied. That's 7%. And so we really want to make a change. We have to make sure that our the way that we are reaching out and connecting with women is very different than how we connect with who we're bringing in, that is typically men. So those are my questions, and I can also provide you with a contact for the Evergreen College for the women's and the Gender Office of Gender Prevention of Violence, and the one over at the county, and so that you can have both of those as resources.
Yeah, appreciate that.
Wonderful, thank you. Those are my questions. Oh, and then I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Thank you. And I know Council Member Jimenez is feeling under the weather today, but he was curious about some of these statistics as well. And I know we kind of sped through it a little bit, but I would agree with Councilmember Arenas. First off, the most underrepresented group are women in general, and so I see that it's challenging to hire more women when you're getting such a low percentage that apply. So that's the first step, is diversifying our applicant pool and ensuring that we get a broad group of applicants and a diverse group of applicants. And so I think we've had some strategies within the police department that seem to have worked. And I see here, obviously we have some strategies within the fire department, but I would say we need to have a check-in point. And if they're not working, right, if we're not getting more applicants and ultimately then not having any more hires, then we need to see if we need to retool that and look at other strategies. In regards to the actual diversity of the current positions, filled positions of firefighters. I see that, we have some decent diversity as it goes along there. Still heavily the largest group, white or Caucasian and males, obviously. And I think that doesn't completely reflect the makeup of our city. And we recognize that's not going to be the case. And as is, we don't even have a majority of city residents that are applying. So I would agree with our caller that chimed in on wondering where people are applying from. I didn't see Santa Clara County, residents of Santa Clara County on that demographic list. Is that possible, Chief, that could be something that we include in the next round of data here?
Absolutely.
Okay, yeah, because I suspect we would see, at least I would hope maybe a larger number of applicants from Santa Clara County. I recognize a lot of people here in the county in and around San Jose will apply for San Jose as the biggest city in the area. But we're just not seeing that in the data, and we see, non-San Jose residents being the bulk, but I'm curious how far they're actually coming from. There's a small group, 10% outside of California. That's understandable. So just curious on that regard. Otherwise, I don't have any other questions, and it doesn't look like we have any other from the committee. So if we can get a roll call vote, please.
Arenas,
Yeah.
Jones,
Aye.
Mahan,
Aye.
Perales.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Concludes that report. Okay, that'll take us now to item D3, our fire department sworn staffing strategic planning. And is this you again, Assistant Chief, or is this you, Chief Sapien? Did my audio go out? Can anybody hear me?
No, Chief Sapien, you're muted. Looks like you've started, but you're still muted.
Okay, how about now?
Yep.
Oh.
There we go. Sorry about that. The fire department first presented its annual fire department sworn staffing levels report to Public Safety Committee or Public Safety Finance and Strategic Support Committee on October 6, 2021. The county requested that the department return to address two items. Number one, expected attrition and additional companies being added, and two, strategic planning for growth and population densification. The department reached its highest staffing levels in fiscal year 2007-2008 with 758 authorized sworn positions. In subsequent years, the department proposed substantial reductions to meet budget reduction targets as impacts of the Great Recession challenged city resources. While many resources have been restored, three companies, including Engine 33, Truck 3, and staffing for HIT 29 remain unfunded. In fiscal year 2021-22, 14 positions were added mid-year to staff the new Fire Engine 37. The department has experienced a steady increase in annual call volume and has found a close relationship with population growth. In slide 3, we note a narrowing between annual call volume and staffing levels. This results in an increase in unit utilization and workload per company. Resource availability is reduced as unit utilization increases, creating more instances where second or third due resources respond to emergencies. Fire department attrition is primarily driven by separations due to retirement. Tier 1 members of the police and fire department retirement plan are eligible for a service retirement when they reach a minimum age of 55 years after 20 years of service, or at age 50 after 25 years of service, or any age after 30 years of service. In calendar year 2021, sworn service retirements occurred at an average of 25.04 years of service. And so as you can see by this chart, the fewest number of individuals reach 30 years of service in the department. And as you look at the time period of 2019 to 2022, you can see that there are a number of those who reach 25, and most of those individuals who have 20 years of service are not yet eligible for retirement. The department hires to fill vacant positions. In other words, we do not hire ahead in anticipation of vacant positions. Fluctuations in the attrition rate and long onboarding time and capacity contribute to the vacancy rate. Increases in staffing levels, such as adding companies, will also contribute to the vacancy rate until the department can close the created gap. Under normal circumstances, the department can onboard up to 60 firefighters per year. However, previously, the department has surpassed this number through lateral firefighter hiring strategies that also have abbreviated fire academies or lowering the onboarding time. This chart reflects anticipated retirements and newly added positions. In years 25 and 26, those are rough approximations for when engines 32 and 36 would be added. The department has been advancing its 2016 Fire Department Vision 2023 Strategic Business Plan, guided by the City Council directed Fire Department Organizational Review. The organizational review, conducted by Citygate Associates, included a community risk assessment and a standards of response coverage assessment that analyzed fire department crew deployment. As we've advanced the strategic plan, some of the recommendations in the organizational review have been achieved, including restorations of engines 35, engine 30, and engine 34, elimination of brownouts, and 3 squads, now called rescue medics, have been placed into service. Still outstanding from those recommendations include the restoration of engine 33, restoration of truck 3, and staffing for the hazardous incident team. Additionally, 2 squads were also recommended in the study. The city and the department have also achieved closure of some of the service gaps in the city. Measure T has helped fund the addition of new stations. Very recently, we opened Fire Station 20 with a landside bay that serves areas around the airport. Fire Station 37 is near completion, and funding has been identified for an additional Fire Station 32 and Fire Station 36. Other service gaps were identified in the organizational review and would include a 5th and 6th new fire station. The city has also provided funding to improve daily resourcing by adding authorized overtime, which allows the department to backfill companies when they are out on in-service training assignments. The department continues to pursue strategic business plan objectives within its 5 focus areas, including operations, sustainable workforce, community alliance, infrastructure and support, and revenue generation and cost savings. I am happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you. And we'll go to members of the public first.
There are no hands, Chair.
Okay, thank you. And how about coming back to members of the committee? Not seeing any. Yeah, Councilmember Arenas.
Sorry. I was having trouble with my virtual hand. So the only question that I have, and hello, Chief Sapien, good to see you. I had a question from our last committee meeting, and I just wanted to bring it back up again because it's close to the last item. And I just at a very broader level wanted to see what has been the work between PRNS and the library and the fire department for recruitment. I spoke last time about how some of the programs that the library has are helping, kiddos graduate from high school to get their online certification, or helping kiddos get back on track onto college. And so I think we have a captive audience to also expand within our fire department. Has there been any movement to build those two things together?
The short answer, council member, is no. As Chief Williams had previously described in the prior item, we have not conducted a new recruitment since the process that he described to you, and so we have not engaged in a new application period or new recruitment as of yet. We are, as he described, creating our initial steps, such as the women's boot camp. We are participating more frequently in recruitment fairs and such, but we haven't started our meaningful recruitment process as of yet.
There's a really wonderful opportunity right now, Chief, to jump into this. We have a youth master plan that PRNS is developing. We're working on this through NSC committee. And I think this can help integrate, really institutionalize some of these some of the outreach and partnership, rather than having to, every so often remember to reach out. We can just integrate it in that way. You're always on the front of our minds in terms of career, that we can always point to some of the camps that are happening, or some of, I don't know, whatever happenings that you're putting out there to make sure that we continue to recruit, especially from San Jose and the county. I think, the chair was talking about the low number of folks that we see from Santa Clara County, and we want to make sure that we grow our youth and make sure that we have these local jobs for them. I mean, it works for the environment, it works for them, it works for everybody. And so I just like to recommend for that to maybe begin to happen as the master plan for the youth is in motion at this point.
Thank you, council member. I appreciate that. I think I'll give the same caution that I gave last time, which is we are, in my estimation, seriously under-resourced in terms of our capacity to conduct recruitment because of our staffing levels. We have 2 individuals that are charged with all of our recruitment, promotion, HR transactions, everything involved, which is probably more than 2 full-time jobs worth of work.
Yeah.
And so I do not want to leave a false impression that we can dive in deeply into those types of expanded outreach efforts without additional resources. But certainly I appreciate the value that those can bring.
No, and I hear you, and I think maybe at this point, well, one, let's get you more resources, certainly, because we want to grow our fire department. But if we're not investing, then we're going to continue to have the same conversation over and over again. And that would be the first thing, is to make sure that you get the resources that you need. And second, I think in the meantime, we can put maybe some of that responsibility on some of the folks who are already working with our youth to mention these career opportunities, rather than have you come out there and do a whole, I don't know, workshop or have you. I mean, it's great to build these kinds of relationships. I think they serve for so many different benefit our youth for so many different reasons, aside from maybe role models, but career choice or just having positive folks in their lives. I think that there's already people who have developed these relationships and are supporting these kiddos, and those are our best funded agencies. And so let's give them that information, put some of that responsibility, not completely to recruit for you, Chief Sapien, but to plant that seed about the possibilities within the city of San Jose. And just having that opportunity out there in the horizon can make a huge difference for somebody who's trying to get back on the right track, right? To be hopeful and to have opportunities, sometimes that's all we need. And so I don't mean to push you and your department to grow this, but I think if we have an opportunity to integrate some of these some of this information within the contracts that we have with our best programs, then let's find how to be efficient. And then of course, I look to Lee for that additional resources for our fire department.
If I can actually jump in, I did want to say, one of the things that hopefully you guys have seen in some of the monthly emails from Jennifer Shembry with the recruitment and retention, I think we're taking that pipeline conversation pretty serious. And so we're not throwing a lot of resources at it in the proposed budget, but there will be resources for HR to be a little bit more deliberate and assist departments in developing and cultivating some of these pipelines. Obviously, San Jose State, our high schools, or council member, like what you're talking about, youth master plan, we have a captive audience with a lot of these folks. So I think we're making some strategic investments to start that process, giving all of our recruitment challenges we face from a labor market and wanting a workforce that represents our community. So I do think we'll make some progress, and you'll see those in the budget process. Nothing specific to fire. We are looking across the organization now.
Yeah, well, sometimes that's, certainly that can facilitate and take the load off of the fire department, but there's still, it sounds like these two people are doing the work of four, is what I think I heard Chief Sapien say. So, I think we need to we demand so much from our fire department, and we've been relying on them. And so I think it's time for us to also continue to invest. Obviously, infrastructure is huge, and that's in the making. Loud and clear, those fire stations. I missed that grand opening. We were at a conflict, but I would love to see, and I love it. I love when I see an additional resource for our community. That means that lives are being saved, and that means that we can accomplish our arrival timelines that we need to comply with, and that we rely on to continue to have funding come through to us. And so, like I said, I feel like this is Groundhog Day. Because we continue to have the same conversation when we know what we need to do for our fire department. Anyways, thank you.
Thank you. See any other hands? Can you pull up the slide that showed the fire department staffing and the city population?
Is that up now, Councilmember?
No, not yet.
I lose my share capacity here. There we go.
There it is. Thank you. Oh, not that one. It's the one before that. Yeah, that one there. Thank you.
There we go.
Just, very telling on, and this was the case for, every city department pre-recession, but 2007, 2008, and really up until 2010 or so, a little less population, and a lot more staff. And so I think that, you know, certainly that is, I think, the goal that we should be striving to get back to. But I do think that there's a room for discussion here on what is adequate, right? And I know that we have the report, and I appreciate that, on looking at, you know, where we need to improve and how we can strategically improve. And I agree with it. I'm glad we did that report. Excuse me. And then it laid out some of the growth strategies for us, which you put in the presentation on things that we've already started to do. Not fully there yet, though. And tell me if I'm wrong, but Chief, it really does just at the end of the day rely on more personnel, and then ultimately more stations and apparatus, right? I mean, it's that's how we're going to then check the box on the rest of the growth needs that we have.
Yes, from a service perspective, it would be filling the gaps that were analyzed in a few ways. Travel time for resources, so the ability to have our rolling equipment arrive within 4 minutes of travel time, addressing high density, high call volume areas where first due resources may be challenged to be in service enough to capture the calls that are occurring in their first due areas. And then certainly some more nuanced approaches of how we balance our relief pool against our vacancy rates, which is a matter of, you know, a function of one, an overall position vacancy rate, but also absences for vacation and the like that occur. And so ultimately, what the organization review and the standards of cover plan addressed would be exactly what you said, which is the number of resources that are available and personnel out in the field to respond to emergencies.
Okay. Yeah, and I do think, you know, we should consider, you know, where is that bottom line for us, and again, we have the strategy on where we need to grow, but what we don't really have is, you know, say every budget cycle, a bar that says, hey, we want to get up to this number of personnel and this number of you know, new stations or apparatus, and so that way we have something we're ultimately striving to fund, because it's a council decision at the end of the day on, you know, do we want to be able to try and add some more resources? Is it going to be a big investment, right? Like we've just recently done with Measure T, where we're going to have to build some new stations. So it's you know, it's certainly a more detailed conversation, but this is the, you know, I think this is the crux of it here, is that we continue to grow, although we've seen a little bit of decrease in the population over the last couple years. Overall, right, over the last decade, we've grown, and I think that'll be the course for the next decade. And we need to have similarly the plans mapped out to grow our most crucial city services, like our fire service. So I appreciate the update and the presentation here, and hopefully we can, you know, start to build the ranks and get you some more support, and that'll trickle up, right, for you, and get some people to fill some of those senior level positions. Okay, we have do we have a motion on this?
We don't have a motion yet, Chair.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, can we get a roll call vote?
Arenas,
Yes.
Mahan,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Perales.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now that takes us on to item D4, our fleet take-home vehicles audit report.
Good afternoon, Joe Royce, City Auditor. I'm here with our take-home vehicle audit. It's a verbal report today. The audit is improved controls can better ensure compliance with city policies. So the city of San Jose has a fleet of nearly 2,700 vehicles, including transport, special purpose, and police and fire vehicles. City policy allows departments to assign take-home vehicles for after-hour emergency responses by employees on standby duty assignments that require special purpose or police or fire vehicles. Other requirements for being eligible for take-home vehicles include having a minimum of 24 annual callbacks for after-hour emergency responses, having a one-way commute of 30 miles or less, and being able to respond to a callback within 45 minutes. In 2021, the city manager's office authorized 222 take-home vehicles to 238 city employees. The police department had the most take-home vehicles, 145 in total. 6 other departments, including Public Works, Department of Transportation, Environmental Services, Parks, Recreation, Neighborhood Services, Fire, and the Office of Emergency Management, also had employees assigned take-home vehicles. The objective of this audit was to assess current practices for take-home vehicles. We just had one finding: clarifying policies and streamlining processes can lead to better management of take-home vehicles. In 2021, commuting mileage for take-home vehicles totaled an estimated 1.6 million miles. Using the Internal Revenue Service standard mileage rate of 56 cents per mile, this translates to over $871,000 in commuting costs. Many city employees assigned take-home vehicles, however, did not meet the policy guidelines. We found that more than a third of employees assigned take-home vehicles had not reached the required number of callbacks. Over 20% exceeded the one-way commute threshold, and over 60% were not on standby duty assignments under the terms of agreements with the city's employee bargaining units. It should be noted, exceptions are allowable, though the process for seeking exemptions was not always followed, and the process is not completely clear. Public Works is tasked with administering the take-home vehicle policy, though they have little enforcement authority, and the current manual authorization process is time-consuming and prone to errors. It also does not account for changes to vehicle assignments during the year. Public Works is currently exploring an electronic option to streamline the approval process. Also, there are no policy guidelines to monitor potential personal use outside of commuting to the city, though the city has installed telematics or an electronic system to track vehicle location, performance, and other data on many of the take-home vehicles, which could provide that opportunity. Lastly, in limited circumstances, commuting costs may be a taxable fringe benefit. However, the city may not have identified all potentially affected employees. To better ensure compliance with the policy, the city policy, we recommend the city update the policy to clarify roles and responsibilities, including how to track callbacks, conduct required cost-benefit analyses, and monitor for personal use. Develop an electronic approval process to better manage take-home vehicles, and develop a process to accurately report taxable fringe commuting benefits when appropriate. I'd like to thank Public Works Department, Finance Department, City Attorney's Office for their time, information, insight, and cooperation. The administration has reviewed the report, and their response is included in the yellow pages. I ask that you accept the report and cross-reference to the May 10th meeting of the full City Council, and I think I'll turn it over to Walter, I believe, for the administration's response. There you are.
Thank you so much, Joe, and good afternoon, members of the committee. I am Walter Lin, Deputy Director for the Public Works Department. Of the one finding and the 5 recommendations in coordination with the Finance Department, as there are 3 recommendations managed by Public Works and 2 recommendations managed by the Finance Department. We do agree with these recommendations, and we'll be working towards the implementation over the next several months into 2023 for all 5 items.
Okay, thank you. We'll go to members of the public first.
Blair Beekman.
Hi, Blair Beekman. Just a quick offering here. I just wanted to say hi on this item. Hi to Walter Lin and the work. This sounds like a bit of a difficult item this week. Good luck on how you can work on it. Just a quick reminder in the importance of electric vehicle use and its good practices and what we can do to better further that. And that electric cars are not the answer to everything, but good luck on how you're going to have to work on this issue. Thank you.
The last comment, back to the committee.
Thank you. Any comments from my colleagues? Not seeing any. I just have one question for Walter. Walter, why are the responses from staff yellow and only the last one green when they all seem to read as though you agree with it?
That's correct, Councilmember Perales. So they are yellow because we have the ideas and the work plans leading up to the implementation, but allocating the resource and the time needed for the development of those recommendations that are listed will take us a bit of time. For example, there are some policy amendments that we need to make on other fleet audit items that we're working on as well. In order to get everything in one approval process, we're hoping to bundle everything together, and that'll take a little bit of time. The telematics portion, that takes installation time as well too. There are under 100 or so vehicles in quantity within the take-home inventory that still need telematics installed. And that will take some time and budget allocated as well too to make that happen over the next 12 months or so. Then looking at the IRS guidelines and the implementation of those policy adjustments within the policy, working with finance to create that language and put that for approval within the policy. So there are things that we have in terms of a work plan outline. It's just the time needed in order to actually make those implementations occur.
Is the deadline or the target date of completion, I should say, is that still correct in what we're reading on there? Or are you saying that that is an estimate and that's subject to change based on some of these factors?
That is as accurate as we had as of earlier this month in April. Obviously, things can be sped up, or if more time is needed, we can make those adjustments. That is our estimate at this point in terms of what we feel is needed as of April 2022 moving forward.
Okay. Maybe I'm just confused on how I've read the prior audit responses, but I don't know, maybe Joe, help me here. Do these sound appropriate for kind of the yellow response? Maybe did they just need a little bit more explanation like what Walter just gave in there, or would these be more appropriate? I mean, it sounded like there was agreement, you know, it's going to be done at a certain time frame, like, you know, April 2023 next year, and it sounded to me like those would all be greenlit or traditionally in on prior audit responses that I read.
Yeah, I think your interpretation is reasonable. You know, and hearing Walter describe it, I have a better understanding of why they were yellow as well, because I was a little confused in seeing that. We do follow up every 6 months, as you know, and so this will be in the next round. And as we do that process, you know, sometimes once departments kind of dig in, we'll have another crack at getting a good date, because they might be a little further along when we do that update in June and July period about what the time frame is. So we'll have updates on that.
Okay. Yeah, I just I didn't see anything here that made it look like there was, you know, anything that was going to stop the progress here, especially looking at a target date of completion on all these, you know, at some point next year. That's actually fairly common, as you know, Joe, right? Where it takes some time to complete some of these items, even when they're greenlit. And everything that I read in the description didn't tell me that there was a reason why they were signified as yellow. So all I would say, maybe Walter, would be, my guess would be I'm going to read these all as green, and that there's really no further action from the council where we need to potentially, you know, come in and help to hit that target date, and that the department is ready to meet the audit recommendations by the target date that you've specified there. And you know, otherwise, I think that's all I was unclear about. So, but thank you for your explanation on it. So
yeah, my apologies as well to Councilmember Perales. These are again recommendations that we agree with. We will be moving forward with. We understand that if we can get to these faster, we definitely will, based on staffing and resource availabilities. But this is something that for all 5 we are planning to administer and complete.
Okay.
So
I don't know if it makes a difference, but maybe we can change that before it comes to the council. Sorry, Lee, you were going to say something.
I was going to ask Walter, actually. I think we will do a supplemental response. I do see one that could be a budgetary constraint that might be a yellow, but the others are things that would normally be a green that we would fit in. So I think we'll work with Joe and his team to put out a supplemental so that we're consistent with how we normally do this. And I missed this as well. So that's a good catch.
Okay. It's just helpful because, I mean, obviously, you know, I'm looking for red flags, which are the ones where department, you know, staff disagrees with the or is a red light, or something can't be implemented. And then the yellow light is usually where there's some controversy, or we don't, you don't know if you can do it. You need something else going on. But I read all these, and based on what Walter said, it looked like there's agreement and these are going to happen, and they've got a target date of completion. And so that all looked very, very solid, which I appreciate. Okay. If we can get a motion to approve.
So moved. Second.
And a roll call vote, please.
Arenas. Arenas. Jones.
Aye.
Mahan.
Aye.
Perales.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're on to our last item before open forum, which is item D5, our citywide grant monitoring audit report.
Good afternoon again, Joe Royce, City Auditor. I'm here with our citywide grant management audit. Improved coordination can increase federal grant opportunities and standardize grant administration. Again, this is just a verbal report. So the city of San Jose receives funding from a variety of sources to support city services, including federal, state, or local grants. A majority of the city's grant funding is from federal agencies. In fiscal year 2020-2021, the city spent $247 million from federal awards, most of which were a result of the almost $174 million in COVID-19 relief funds. Multiple departments receive and manage federal awards. Each department is responsible for each step of the grant lifecycle, including submitting grant applications, implementing programs under the terms of grant agreements, closing out grants, and working with federal agencies who may conduct audits for grant compliance. The objective of this audit was to review and assess citywide management of federal awards across departments. The audit was requested by the administration, as the city's external financial auditors have expressed concerns about internal controls around financial reporting related to federal awards. We had one finding: better coordination is needed to improve management and administration of federal grant awards. As I noted previously, the city receives millions of dollars of federal awards, and the city's external financial auditors have repeatedly raised concerns about the city's financial reporting process for these awards. In addition, our office and federal auditors have raised concerns around the tracking and documentation of federal expenditures in the past. We found that the city's decentralized grant management structure creates risks in identifying and managing grants. Departments vary in both how they identify and manage federal awards and the level of resources available for managing them. Few departments had standard procedures, and departments generally do not provide regular training for staff to properly manage awards. Other large California cities have a similar decentralized grant management structure. However, to assist staff, many have developed citywide procedures or guidelines related to applying for and managing awards, and/or providing regular training. And although the city has begun to provide centralized or cross-departmental assistance with new staff in the finance department and an informal cross-departmental working group, more can be done. Lastly, because indirect costs are generally allowable expenses, the city is required to have its indirect cost allocation plan approved by its federal cognizant agency, and in some cases, a state granting agency. Because the plan has changed since the last time it had been approved, the city should seek approval for the most up-to-date plan from the appropriate federal or state agencies to ensure indirect costs can continue to be reimbursable in the future. To better manage and coordinate federal grant management, we make recommendations that the city should develop citywide guidance or procedures and training around different stages of grant management, formalize the grants working group as a forum for interdepartmental coordination, and request approval for the city's current indirect cost allocation plan from the relevant agencies. We'd like to thank the Finance Department, City Manager's Office of Administration, Policy, and Intergovernmental Relations, City Manager's Budget Office, the City Attorney's Office, and all the other departments we spoke with during the audit for their time, insight, and cooperation during the process. The administration has reviewed the report, and the response is shown in the yellow pages. I ask you to approve the report and cross-reference to the May 10th City Council meeting. I'll now turn it over to, I believe, Luz Cafresi-Howe from the Finance Department for the administration's response.
Good afternoon, Chairman Perales, council members. Thank you for the opportunity to present our response. As you can see by the yellow pages, we agree with all recommendations of the city auditor. We do have, all of them are green. There is a partial yellow going back to recommendation number 1 on numbers 1B, 1C, 1D. And essentially that is what we have identified: limited positions, 7 of them. Those limited positions expire June 2023. And so we have a budgetary constraint there, obviously, so we'll need to consider how to make some or all of those positions permanent during, if we can, during the FY 2023-24 budgeting process. And with that, I complete my presentation of the response, and any questions at your pleasure.
Thank you. Let's go to members of the public first.
Blair Beekman.
Hi, thank you. Blair Beekman here. Just trying to learn to offer quick reminders. Another quick reminder that this was an interesting item to learn about and can be a good complement, I feel, to what is becoming, at the state level, some important money has been given to the state level from the federal level to kind of build up their funding patterns and practices for the future of local communities. That means that housing departments and such we can receive more money each year now. And that's an interesting concept. And that means the ideas of subsidy. Good luck how grant funding and subsidy ideas can be an open conversation for ourselves and to make it a trusted conversation for our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, sorry. I apologize. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to make sort of a general comment about all of these grants. So over the last, I don't know, 8 years or something, when I've been following a lot of these meetings and a lot of different grants are talked about, I don't know the history of how municipal governments have gotten their funding. I know we had issues with like the redevelopment agency shutting down and so forth, but it seems to me that we're setting ourselves up for a bit of a conundrum as far as getting funds for what we need based on our ability to be successful at not only getting these grants, but being educated about the grants, which grants, would be best, which ones have timelines that we can then make sure they fit in with our planning. So for example, the planning department has many challenges where they apply for certain grants and then they find out that the development timeline, they're going to not be able to utilize that grant because they haven't done what they need to do in time. So I'm very skeptical from a taxpayer's point of view that in the long run, this particular method of getting funds for our needs as a city ends up paying off. It really concerns me, quite frankly. It's just odd to me. So I just want to make the general statement that if we're moving to a direction where every different city has to sort of be running around and hiring people who are experts in getting grants, it just seems like not a good overall ending situation. And I'm not quite sure I like that idea of how we fund our government. I just wanted to put that out there. Thank you.
The last public speaker, back to the committee.
Okay, thank you very much. Back to the committee. Don't see any hands up. And I know we lost our public works staff, but this is the type of audit response that I think fits the yellow. So Luz, you can give Walter a call and show him this is the yellow. You nailed it. Okay. Then if I can get a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
All right, and a roll call vote, please.
Arenas,
Yes.
Jones, Jones, Mahan,
Aye.
Perales.
Yes.
And I just wanted to, I'm not sure if Arenas was muted on the last vote, but I didn't hear a yes. Councilmember.
And that was Jones's aye.
Okay. And then for item D.4, Councilmember Arenas, were you a yes as well?
Yes, you didn't.
I didn't hear
I
you.
was off camera, but I was.
Okay, just to confirm. So I
Okay.
have
Hey,
4
thank you.
yes votes for.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. And just for reference, in both of those recommendations was a cross-reference to the May 10th council meeting. Now we'll go on to open forum. You speak about 2 minutes, and you get to speak on any item that was not on today's agenda.
Blair Beekman.
All right, thank you. Blair Beekman here. I guess first off, the Reimagined Task Force Commission, they have finished their last meeting last night and have come up with a series of recommendations for the future of the city that will be presented to City Council May 10th. Good luck in our work and efforts to address their recommendation process. I think it's a really impressive list that we are progressing forward with new concepts that I think can be understandable for everyone. And I really hope they can be, and people want to talk about them and not just, immediately dismiss them. Good luck in these efforts that takes all of the community to want to be a part of and build upon. We're at a time to really question our military industrial complex and really question the use and ideas of peace as practices instead of the practices of war and the military industrial complex. We're at that time. It's an interesting time. I really wish that Russia could have taken these lessons that we're learning right now. They're going through their own pain right now to figure things out. I think we can teach them some really important things right now on the ideas of peace, open democracy, sustainability. Good luck how we can be doing this work at the May 10th meeting. And through the summer, it's going to take a lot of work. So good luck. I'm to quickly mention about Jill Border's concerns, like with the gun safety issues, grant issues, subsidy issues. We can organize ourselves, and it's important we learn how to organize as we're asking these new questions. I try to mention that often here. And to quickly conclude about the May Day Festival, I hope, there's going to be a commingling of many groups. I hope we don't have to use law enforcement and learn how to police ourselves. Thank you.
Jill Borders.
Thank you. I attended a meeting this morning, a city meeting, and they had to take a vote on whether or not to continue, for the next 30-day meeting, whether or not they would be online. Came down from, the state and needing to authorize online meetings due to COVID, et cetera. And so I just wanted to put in my 2 cents here that I really, really have appreciated the online meetings. And when COVID leaves us for good, I really hope that we have understood that the power of this digital platform in encouraging civic engagement among the public. So I do hope that when the time comes, sooner hopefully than later, where COVID is behind us and we have opportunities to meet in person, that we will somehow, I don't know how we're going to do this, I don't know whether the city council would have this within their purview or not, but that we would continue this online or this hybrid program indefinitely. For example, this morning, I got an education into the fiduciary responsibilities of trustees, and it was fabulous. And let me tell you why it was fabulous. It was fabulous because I learned a whole bunch of stuff that I did not know that increased my belief that there are safeguards around different elected leaders and different board members and things like that they must follow. So it really elevated my level of trust in government. And as we move towards wanting to have that trust be built back, I think that this hybrid model and the ability for me to be able to attend all these various meetings and learn these things has definitely increased my level of trust in government, and it's helping to do that. So I hope you'll consider that moving forward. Thank you.
As the last public speaker, back to the chair.
Thank you. Meeting is adjourned. Have a good rest of your day.